The New Orleans Saints fell flat against the Atlanta Falcons, the Dirty Birds. We're going to break down the reasons why. I've got four of them. This game slipped away because, once again, total disaster offense in the red zone. Once again, a brutal day from the offensive line. A defense that held their own for about three quarters and then gave up two big plays back to back that broke the Saints back. And it didn't help that you had a kicker leaving points all over the field. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Quick note before we dive in. Fortunately, there will be no Saints film room this week. Between Thanksgiving holiday upcoming and my travel plans to meet the family for said Thanksgiving holiday, I was hoping to get one brief one out, but can't even do that because currently NFL Plus has me for some reason locked out of the all 22 film, so I can't even get to it to do a film room. And even if it becomes available by this afternoon or late tonight, it would be so rushed to try to get it out before I left town. It it would be no point. So we'll just go ahead and write it off for this week, but we will bring it back next week. Hopefully, all my issues with NFL Plus is taken care of by then. So let's go ahead and dive into the four reasons, and it starts off with a complete failure of the offense yet again. In fact, we've not had a complete failure of red zone offense yet this year in 11 games. To me, this is now solely on Kellen Moore's shoulders. That he needs to take serious heat for this as the head coach and the offense coordinator. If you want to throw Doug Nussmeier in that conversation, I'm okay with that too, because he is the OC, as well as any of the assistant coaches under him, because they're supposed to be good teachers and game planners and being able to adjust the scheme to the players that you have available. And for the most part, you see a lot of that all over the field, but you don't see one iota of it in the red zone. But I really think the main reason this is happening is, look, after 11 games in one bye week, you'd struggle to still say what exactly is the identity of this team on offense, which is a problem, right? But you might be able to do it, but you can't do it in the red zone because they have no clue what the scheme, what the idea, what the purpose, the intent, much less having play callers and right personnel on the field to pull it off when you don't know yourself. And I completely am tired of seeing what I saw on Sunday because various times in the red zone, we saw a power running team. We saw a basically a zone running scheme team. We saw a heavy Taysom package running team. We tried to do it with Tyler Shuck, either under center or out of shotgun. Um, and at times we saw a couple gimmick plays in there, none of which worked. So what are you? You basically threw kind of five different schemes out in 12 red zone plays, give or take. Uh, it's just maddening and frustrating. And, you know, it's a good thing I'm a little under the weather with a bad throat right now, or I'd be really ranting and raving on this. I was doing it Sunday during the game, and I think the neighbors once again think I'm crazy, but this kind of stuff drives me crazy. Drives me absolutely insane to see this. And if you get something to work out, fine, but nothing is working out. And again, I'm putting this squarely on Kellen Moore's shoulders. He's got to pick a path. He's got to pick an idea. I don't care what it is. My preference would be, look, if you think you're building this offense around Tyler Shuck everywhere else but the red zone, you just soon include him as the main guy in the red zone too. Let's see if he can make some plays. But whatever you choose, if you want to be full Taysom Hill package, fine. Don't care. One thing, make sure everybody's on the same page. Because I think that's a big part of the problem when you've got different blocking schemes and concepts and personnel. A veteran team may be able to pull that off with a lot of good players. We are neither, especially on offense. But I mean, at times it feels like he's play calling and scheming, especially in the red zone, like he still has that Eagles offense he had last year. Yeah, not even close. So when you look at, and this is by my game notes, because once again, I don't have the all 22 to really double check looking at this. Um, but by my game notes, we had 12 plays in the red zone, 9 plays inside the 10-yard line, 6 plays inside the 5, at least 3 from the 1. And you ran basically more or less 5 different schemes in those 12 plays. Let you get 3 total points. Now, look, you've got other offensive issues. Do not get me wrong. You've got, and we're going to talk about this in depth in a minute, a line that just is not good generally. You have some decision making issues. So, and some of that is with the offensive line. I think blocking combinations sometimes get a little tough for them down here in the red zone, especially since there seems to be a lot of miscommunication. But your quarterbacks or whoever's throwing the ball making poor decisions. I think receivers sometimes are making poor decisions about where they need to go. A lot of times in this compressed area of the red zone, especially when they're facing some type of matchup zone. So I think it all goes hand in hand. But I think a lot of that would be cleared up is when you started the week, when they start the work week next week, and just say, look, this is what we're going to do in the red zone. Here's the 10, 12, I don't care plays we're going to run, all based out of one scheme, whatever it is. This is what we're calling. Everybody make sure they know this is what we're calling. There's no ifs and or buts questions about it. And we're going to keep running it until we score touchdowns. To solidify the scheme, I'm going to solidify the play calling. The coaching staff under me, and I'm speaking as Kellen Moore, is going to get you dialed up and exactly what you need to know. And I'm going to call these 12 plays, and we're going to get you to the point where you can actually execute them and get a ball in the end zone. Because I don't see at this point what else you can do. At some point, if you want to be good in the red zone, I'm sorry, you just have to put your foot down and say, we're going to be good in the red zone. This is how we're going to do it and fully commit to it. And it just feels like there's no full commitment to anything we're doing down there once we get inside the 20-yard line. And at this point in the season, it's maddening. It's driving me freaking insane. Number 2. And it was a whole lot of number 2 on the field. It felt like for me watching the offensive line play. Um, I think for the most part it was pretty terrible. It's definitely bad yet again. Now, again, so I don't have access to the all 22, so I may be being overly critical or overly harsh on these 5 guys. I find it hard to believe, but I'm allowing for the possibility because what we do know is, and here's some next gen stats that'll back it up, we couldn't protect. And that was one of the things we had to do with that pass rush they were bringing. We mentioned it in the last video, prepping for this game. They get a lot of sacks from a lot of different people, and there's not really one player you can key on as I've got to take him out the game. Now they got 5 sacks on us, and all 5 sacks we gave up, none were on blitzes. They were sending 4 or less on all 5 of those plays. Also, according to Next Gen Stats, and following with that line, on all of our dropbacks, total dropback scenarios we had with Chuck passing, they got a 44.2% pressure rate over the total of all those dropbacks, rushing 4 or less. They had an insane pressure rate. Nearly half the time that they're on a drop back, they're getting pressure on the quarterback, and they're not using a blitz to do it. In fact, as a team, they dialed their blitzing way down than they normally do. They were just as aggressive as they normally are under Albrecht. They didn't have to bother to send extra personnel to do it. That's an issue. You want to carry it one further? Let's go look at some of the running numbers from PFF. Oh Lord, yeah, 28 carries for 73 yards. Not good. It's 2.6 average. Makes it even worse. We didn't even average a yard before contact. 0.08, or rather 0.8 yards. But it doesn't matter because after contact, you could still only get 1.5 to make up the oh my god, the 2.6. Look, you got two explosive running plays the whole game, 11 plus yards out of that 73. You're counting 22 yards of it, one on a wide receiver reverse from Mason Tipton, and the other one on an 11-yard scramble from Tyler Shuck. That's even worse. Now, part of this, I am going to go back and still pick on Kellen Moore in the fact commitment to the run. We had one good drive coming out of the second half at the very beginning, and I mean one really good sustained drive where we hit Neal with an 18-yard pass out the backfield on the first play, and then we started jamming. I think it was 4 or 5 straight runs, running for first downs. None of them going for more than 5 yards, but just pounding that front, pounding, 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 doing it with some tempo so they couldn't even substitute. You get you had a negative game flow going the whole time because you were down. But to me, that proves you can force a running game if you just commit to it. And they're going to have to, I think, whether we get the blocking we think we should need, the big plays we need, because anything else, if they can only give us around 3 yards a rush, we've got to take that 3 yard rush and help everybody out. And a commitment to run blocking on that offensive line and a simplification of scheme for them, there's a chance it produces better results. But I really think we're doing a whole lot of outthinking ourselves in a whole lot of areas on this team right now that we shouldn't even be thinking about. Now, I will say this from what I saw, this was kind of picked up on every time their defensive line did something well and they showed a replay on TV. It seemed one of the three R's was involved, whether it was Radins to left guard, Ruiz at right guard, or Richards at right tackle. Now, again, can't look at the film to confirm this, but by association of that, I would think you probably got pretty decent games from Banks and Fortner for the most part because you just weren't seeing them screw up on replays, on big plays. But I'm sure they're there too. And it may be overly critical on the three that but I mean, those are the ones on my game notes. You know, Radens badly beaten on a one-on-one. Combo block with Ruiz. This is the one that just killed me and I lost my mind on. You got a combo block with Ruiz and Richards, and one guy defender manages to split both of them, get in the backfield, make a play. That should never ever happen. So for the most part, if and when I'm finally allowed to look at film again by the NFL, uh, I I just find it hard to believe I'm going to find enough in there that I could that would force me to change my opinion from bad offensive line yet again. That's been the MO most of the year. That's what we got again on Sunday. And the problem is we've been bailing ourselves out by being able to throw the ball most of the time. But with that pass rush schemed up by Albrecht, they pretty much took that option off the table too. So you add up the fact that your red zone was a disaster and your offensive line was a disaster for most of the game. You got to kind of wonder how the hell were we even in the thing? So let's talk about the defense. So the defense. I got a text from my brother-in-law who was at the game about, well, it was at halftime that I think he sent it. Somewhere around the third quarter, beginning of the third quarter, I think I noticed it. But it's basically the simple question: does this look as bad on TV as it does in real time? And I said, if you're talking about the offense, especially up until that point, yeah. But the defense, a little bit disappointing. But overall, I thought they would be giving us probably enough to win if the offense was doing anything. And I kind of really wish I could watch film to confirm my suspicion that it kind of was. Like they were giving you enough to kind of keep you hanging around. They had their issues at times against a couple really good players, even though they were missing Penix and Drake London. Robinson, Algier, Pitts could, is good for a big catch every now and then. There was enough there that could make stuff happen. We had 9 missed tackles on the day according to PFF. Probably sounds about right. Pretty close to that. Our average, I think we were around 10, 11 for most of the season. We were probably somewhere around that, and that cost us. But for the most part, they gave up one long drive for a touchdown, two shorter drives that ended in long field goals, one of which was off a stupid turnover we had on a miss exchanged or play action fake or whatever that was between Shuck and Kamara. You can kind of live with that. It was a little bend, don't break. You didn't give up a whole lot. And you made a big play to score the Saints' only touchdown on a tip ball on good coverage by one of the few times I think Kool-Aid actually had iron tight coverage on somebody, knocks the ball away. Reed's able to intercept it and return it for a touchdown. So you're in the mix. You're hanging in right there. You get another yet disaster red zone series before getting it all the way down to the one that results in a completely terrible grounding call. You force kick the field goal. They get the ball back. The referees return the favor with an equally wrong and horrible grounding call. So you've got them backed up second and 23 after the makeup ground intentional grounding call, as I will refer to it. Robinson on the screen pass, you let him get loose. Gains 24, gets the first down. Very next play action pass. They take their deep shot at easily the biggest playmaking threat they have downfield on a long play action pass, and Darnell Mooney, and you blew that. You blew it badly. I suspected watching it live and then the replay going, was that supposed to be some type of cover 4 quarters or cover 3? What's going on there? It definitely didn't look like man straight up. And I'm like, how are we given that much space? And how much space was available in the secondary if anybody else is going deep? Now, according to a tweet I read last night from Jeff Nowak, he's confirming it was quarters coverage, but I don't know if that he had asked a player. He's with the media, if he interviewing them, or I don't know how he got that information from, but it felt like it confirmed what my eyes were telling me was there was some type of deep coverage, whether it was both corners and both safeties or both corners and a safety, something where we were trying to take away a deep shot and play underneath. There was no safety help to speak of. Part of that was Reed did bite on the run fake. And McKinstry was acting like he had help to the inside, but I'm sorry, there was always a possibility. There's another, even though there wasn't, the safeties took themselves out of play. Another route combo pulls a safety, and you're going to end up having to run matchup man with him once he goes deep. He sent the signal early. He was going deep. You're going to have to match up man with him. And you had 2 back-to-back plays that were just total disasters. 2 explosive plays. You gave up to their best player and their biggest deep threat coming off of play action when you want to take a home run shot. And we just collapsed on both of them. And whatever hope you had coming back, as slim as it was, there's probably only a slightly greater than 0% chance you were going to come back and win the game. It ended with those 2 plays. When you had them backed up on a second and 23, and you just uncorked the whole game right then and there. From that point, they get the 2-point conversion, 24-10, fourth quarter, this thing's done. So I can't tell you that the defense did enough to win you the game, obviously. But I think they were doing enough to keep you in the game. You didn't play complimentary football. And when it looked like you had a shot, it looked like you really, we might be able to take this late into the game and have a shot at winning it. A good team is not going to give up two back-to-back explosive plays like that. And I feel like the defense is good. It's gotten gradually better. But when stuff like that happens, it exposes them so badly that I have to pause and go, giving up one of those is bad. Giving up both of them back to back in that situation, in that time frame of the game, it look, it's just unacceptable. There's no getting around it. I was being nice on the rundown sheet saying Groupie missed field goals again. In my notes and on my outline, it's big giant letters. Groupie has to go. Sorry. I sure he's a nice guy. I feel bad that it comes down to this situation. And be perfectly clear, he is not, or has he never been with his missed kicks, the reason why we lost the game. There's plenty contributors, generally speaking, over his Saints career that tipped the scales way more heavily to a loss than he did. But what he's been repeatedly guilty of by missing these kicks is affecting the dynamics of the game. And it really affected the dynamics yesterday. In no way, shape, or form, he makes both those field goals, we have a win. It's not enough points, regardless of what happened, but regardless of how game flow turns out, but it's going to change things. At the very least, if you could assume, which you probably can't, but let's just say everything else plays out the same way, exact same way it did after he makes both those field goals. Even when you give up the stupid two big back-to-back plays we just talked about on defense, and they get the 2-point conversion, it's 24-16 game you're looking at. You still keep that slightly above 0% chance alive that you can pull this game out. You're in one score and a 2-point conversion away from a tie, but more importantly, getting points. It's bad enough you're failing so badly in the red zone, but you get down there and he's missing a couple of kicks that no NFL kicker should mix, especially in a dome stadium, especially at home, and just giving points away from a team that can ill afford to give a single point away per game. And it's not uncommon to watch Groupie shank a couple, and you're looking at those 3 to 6 points when he gets in these skids where he can't make anything. How much does that change the game? Does it improve our chance to win? Both unquantifiable, but you feel like probably significant change in a game where the Saints' margin for error is so low that 6 more points covers some of your problems up and maybe overcome them, or maybe get you close enough that you can do something else to overcome it. Regardless, it's time for Charlie Smith. Pull him up, give him a shot. And it sounds like on Twitter that may happen because also Twitter, right before I started filming all this, the Saints beat writers were reporting the Saints are definitely looking in to bring free agents in to kick this week. Two rumored names popped up, and I'd like to talk about both of them. One of them is Justin Tucker. I don't know if I want to see that route. Okay, great kicker. Started having some issues as a kicker. Let's keep this on football first. That and he was highly paid. At one point, he was actually franchised by the Ravens, and he was probably worth it. But a little older, not quite the same leg. Accuracy started coming down a little bit. Then the off the field stuff started coming out, and they cut bait with him as soon as they could. Let's just say he had a 10-game suspension, and if you want to go look at it more, but I'm not comfortable talking about it, and I'm damn sure not comfortable necessarily having a look at him as our new kicker to replace Groupie. Let's just put it that way. So there's that lingering 10-game suspension for misconduct hanging over him that he's off of it now, so he's completely eligible, but I don't know about bringing him in as a kicker. The other one is Cade York, who Louisiana/LSU fans fully familiar with. Very good college kicker. Really highly touted, fourth-round pick by the Browns. Showed up in the Browns, and he's basically bounced around multiple teams since 2022 when he was drafted. Initially with the Browns, Had 2023 had some time with the Giants, and in 2024, time with both the Commanders and the Bengals. He's 73.3% in his NFL career on field goals, 33 for 41, and 51 for 54, and 94, almost 94.5% of extra points for his career. But I think kind of the thing and that his misses tend to come in bunches. And I think that's why some teams lose faith in him and he'd get re-signed sort of, I think, in the same situation he finds himself now in. Previous kicker um, got into the miss situation, into a lot of trouble, and they're looking for a new kicker. But regardless, I don't know if York's ever fully established himself, but at this point, even if he comes in and gives you the same thing Groupie's given you, and looking at his career average, it's a couple misses away from being that. It still may be worth the shot. Personally, I'd like to see him give Charlie Smith his shot. Let's just see what the young man from Ireland can do. But he knows he's got a live leg. Let's just give him some real game conditions. Yet another audition for a future job for the Saints. At this point, I'm like, let's see what he can do. He can't do any worse than Groupie. And at least two of the names they're talking about bringing in so far, one of them, I feel like maybe a little radioactive, and this team doesn't need to deal with any fallout from that. And the other one is kind of another version of Blake Groupie. So, regardless, be it now or the end of the season, going into the next season, the Saints have to solve this freaking kicker problem because again, just gonna have to go in when you're not very good and not playing very good football consistently. You can't keep giving points away like throwing beads at Mardi Gras, and that's what Groupie has done it several times during the season, and he did it again on Sunday. So it was yet another Saints collapse powered by, you know, the continuing red zone nightmare, continuing terrible offensive line play, a defense that just cracked at the wrong time in the fourth quarter. And that crack was basically a chasm or a canyon we couldn't cross, and a kicker's failure to cash in some moments where we're not asking you a whole lot, like to bang a 63 yarder with no time left to win the game, but make those kicks. And let's figure out and see how that's going to filter through with a positive effect on the rest of the game instead of the negative effect of missing out on 6 points. And there's many more you could add to the list. Comments below. I tell you what, give me your fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. I probably agree with all of them because I'm not trying to focus this on one particular person, except for maybe Kellen Moore, because a lot of this stuff I do blame in lesser degree, maybe Staley, blame it on them and blame it on players. But yes, obviously there's plenty enough to spread around to everyone and more reasons than just the four I brought up. But I think those four are pretty specific to the events that happened on Sunday. So, um, again, reminder this week there's no Saints film room. Still having the issues with the NFL Plus, and they're all 22. So hopefully that'll all be resolved. We get back to regular schedule next week. I may or may not be able to squeeze in a very small preview video before I leave. Not sure. So just be on the lookout for it if you don't mind. And if I can't quite get it out there before the holiday, I apologize. So speaking of the holiday, everyone, please have a happy and please have a very, very safe Thanksgiving weekend. After Thanksgiving, we ought to be back on our normal full schedule. Hopefully, everything's going to go perfectly, bells and whistles, including the Saints getting out of this lackluster crap they did on Sunday and get back to playing some semblance of football that where we can go, okay, we can see some stuff moving in the right direction. So, first time here, you like what you saw, please give me a like, a share, a subscribe. Look, give me a like if you're just frustrated with how frustrating this team is, because it was a lot of that going on Sunday. Like I said, let me down in the comments. What else? What else could we have talked about as the drivers for yet another Saints collapse? So, till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out in Who Dat.